Hey guys, today we'll be covering some LEGO terminology, acronyms, colloquialisms, and other phrases that you may have seen used across the LEGO community. This will be the first part of a multiple episode sub-series of Behind the Build, where we'll create a LEGO glossary so that you have a full understanding of the right words to use, and so that you aren't stumped on some words people may have been saying to you in the past. This episode will focus specifically on conversational and general LEGO terms. So let's break them down together. The first term is AFOL. This term is a simple acronym that stands for Adult Fan of LEGO. Typically, this refers to those 18 years or above, but the exact age range that classifies you as an adult can of course vary depending on where you are around the world. A counter term for AFOL is of course TFOL or KFOL. These are of course acronyms for Teenage Fan of LEGO, TFOL, and KFOL is of course Kid Fan of LEGO. And the typical age ranges are under 12 years of age for kids and 13 to about 18 for the teenage fans of LEGO. An alternative for KFOL can also be YFOL. This of course was an acronym for Young Fan of LEGO. It basically means the same thing as just another way of saying it, and of course these are fans who are aged under 12 years of age. There can be a little bit of debate about what the word fan means in teenage or adult fan of LEGO. Typically, to be an AFOL or a TFOL or a KFOL, you have to be someone who builds your own LEGO creations or collects LEGO or just enjoys it in some way as their hobby. Simply being someone who has a healthy appreciation for LEGO but doesn't actually build or collect it, technically that doesn't count. But let's be honest, if you're just a passing fan of LEGO who has a mild appreciation for it and that's about it, and you still want to call yourself an AFOL, go ahead. If you were to use this term in a sentence, you could say, "My name is Ben Cossy, and I'm an AFOL." Before we move on to the next term, typically all LEGO acronyms are said as words and not as the individual letters. So for example, it's pronounced AFOL, not AFOL. But again, say it how you want, it's 100% your choice. The next term is clone or knockoff brands. This is a bit more of a loose and kind of casual term that refers to companies like Mega Construct, Lepin, and Decool, to name a few. These are companies that reproduce LEGO sets or pieces for cheaper prices, but are often drastically worse in quality. Most people in the LEGO community aren't really fans of these type of products or companies, and they often are quite likely to shy away from these sorts of things and tend not to buy them. A lot of the disgust about these companies comes down to just the poor quality, and the fact that a lot of these companies will often directly rip off of the LEGO company themselves, or even steal LEGO creations from fans without permission. Often these companies too can be operating illegally as well. Not all of them, but some of them. Using this term in a sentence, you could say, "I refuse to buy any knockoff brands. Clone brands are just rip-offs of the LEGO company." The next term we'll talk about is known as Dark Ages. This term refers to a time in an adult's life where they need to step away from LEGO as a hobby. Typically, it's during college, or when you're starting a new job, or maybe you're starting a family. Stopping the hobby can be because of a falling out of interest with LEGO, because it's not cool anymore, or simply because you're separated from your collection, or you're just too busy or too poor to do anything with LEGO at the moment. And so that time that you're away from playing or building with your LEGO is known as your Dark Ages. If you were to use this term in a sentence, you could say, 2001 to 2005 were my dark ages because I had to move to the US for college. But after 2006, I started getting back into the hobby. The next term is draft or parts draft. Drafting is something typically done at a LEGO convention or with your local LEGO group. It involves sorting multiple of the same LEGO sets into specific categories, and then members will individually choose larger selections of pieces from the various piles. It's a pretty fun and pretty easy way to get lots of one type of LEGO piece. Now this can be a fairly in-depth term, and honestly it's better explaining it in my other video, LEGO Parts Draft, Why It's Worth Doing One. There'll be a link to this video in the description below, or you can wait till the end of the episode, there'll be a hot link there in the cards for you. I explain it in a lot more detail there, and honestly it'll just save you a bit of time. But if we were to use this in a sentence, we would say, "Hey, I really need a bunch of 2x4 bricks, and they come in this new set. Maybe we could do a parts draft and get a whole bunch of them." On to the next term. This is a more obscure and not really commonly used term, but it's a fun one and I wanted to throw it in anyway. It is Grüschteling. This is the sound you make when you look through a pile of LEGO bricks. It's this noise. It's most likely every AFOL's favourite sound. I myself have only ever seen this term written, and honestly it's rarely come up in conversation, so putting it in a sentence is a little bit difficult, but it really just is a fun novelty and I wanted to include it anyway. The next term is LUG. This is a term that stands for LEGO User Group. A LEGO user group refers to an online or in-person group of builders or people who just enjoy LEGO, and they often meet to display, build, and create with LEGO together. If a LUG is registered with LEGO themselves, they can even receive additional fun benefits. Once again, I've done a video going a lot more in-depth on what a LUG is. There'll also be a link to that one in the description as well. Be sure to check that out if you want to dive in even deeper with this LEGO term. But if we were to use this term in a sentence, we could say, why don't you join a local LUG? It's filled with lots of fun and like-minded people. The next term is minifig or minifigure. Of course, this refers to typical LEGO human characters that you receive in most LEGO sets. The next term is microfig or microfigure. It's a small minifigure that appears originally in the 2010 LEGO game series and in a few other sets as well. And another one is nanofig or nanofigure. And this is an even smaller minifigure that first appeared as a trophy in the collectible minifigure series range and has since appeared in other sets. If we were to use this term in a sentence, we could say, in my latest MOC, I've included some minifigures, microfigures, and some nanofigures as well. And on that, the next term is MOC. MOC stands for My Own Creation. It's a term used to describe any kind of custom LEGO creation made without the use of instructions, which is why it is considered your or my own creation, a LEGO thing that has been made by you. And sometimes people who make MOCs are also known as mockers or mockists. If you were to use this term in a sentence, you could say, hey, check out my latest MOC. One thing to note, many people who say the word MOC, technically in the breakdown of it, if you were to say, hey, check out my MOC, you would obviously technically be saying my own creation. And while technically that doesn't make logical sense, many people still use that term in that way anyway, and that's perfectly fine. So you don't have to say, check out MOC. You can say, check out my MOC. The next term is PAB or PAB Wall. This is an acronym for Pick-a-Brick. In official LEGO stores, there are walls of LEGO, and if you pay, you can fill up a cup with as many pieces as you can fit in that cup, and you can buy it. It's a cheap and fun way to get lots of great individual pieces. Sadly, it does require you to be able to visit a LEGO store in person for you to fill this cup. And this wall is called a PAB wall. And if you're to take one of those cups home, it's called a PAB cup. If you were to use this term in a sentence, you could say, I really need more 1x2 bricks. The PAB wall has some, I'll go fill up a cup with them. Sig Fig is the next term. This stands for signature minifigure. Basically, it's a minifigure you have made that represents you or even someone else. This can of course be an accurate representation or more of a kind of joking mascot of yourself. In other words, it's more or less a version of you made in LEGO. What you would look like if you were a minifigure. If you were to use this term in a sentence, you could say, hey, check out my Sig Fig, he looks just like me. The next term is studs. It refers to the little raised circles on most LEGO bricks. It also refers to the individual 1x1 round plates that look like this. Another term is plates. This refers to the small and thin LEGO bricks with studs on them in any length or size. Another is tiles. This refers to the small and thin LEGO bricks with no studs on them in any length or size. And finally, we have bricks. Typically, this refers to the traditional LEGO brick in any length or size, but it can also refer to just LEGO pieces. You can refer to any LEGO part as a LEGO brick. But for easy differentiation from your standard LEGO bricks to other LEGO bricks, these typical pieces that you see before you are just referred to as bricks. If you were to use these terms in a sentence, you could say, I need to place an order for some plates, tiles, bricks, and a few minifigures too. The next term is TBB. This is an acronym for the popular website known as The Brothers Brick. And of course, TBB stands for The Brothers Brick. This website posts LEGO news and often showcases very well-designed MOCs. It's widely considered an impressive achievement to be blogged on this website, as they tend to only really post very, very well-designed MOCs. Really, the best that the community has to offer is posted here. If you were to use this term in a sentence, you could say, wow, my latest MOC got blogged on TBB. I'm proud of myself. The next term is TLC or TLG, and these are simple acronyms for the LEGO Company or the LEGO Group. Of course, this refers to the company that makes the bricks that we love so much, the LEGO Company. If you were to use this term in a sentence, you could say, Bionicle is one of the best themes that the TLG has ever made. Most of the time I just see this term physically written online, and most people just simply say the LEGO Company in person. But of course, that's up to you. You can say whatever you please. The next one is a term that LEGO themselves actually uses, and it is UCS. This stands for Ultimate Collectors Series. This refers to a select number of Star Wars, Marvel, and other themed sets that are typically very expensive sets with lots of pieces. Usually they recreate things from movies in lots of detail and have a black display card showcasing information on the model as well. Using this term in a sentence, you could say, my favourite set is the UCS Millennium Falcon. Another branch-off term for this is Master Builders Series. This term refers to UCS sets that have a stronger focus on play rather than display. So sets like Betrayal at Cloud City and Assault on Hoth are considered Master Builder Series sets. They can also be loosely considered UCS sets, but in more recent times this term has come into play to better differentiate the two. Typically these sets also come with very large amounts of minifigures as well. If you were to use this term in a sentence, you could say, I just bought the Master Builder Series set number 75098. Mockiversary is an older term that refers to the day that you first started posting LEGO stuff online. It's a sort of anniversary for yourself in the LEGO community. This term was typically used on the website MOC pages and isn't as common these days, but I think it's worth mentioning. If you were to use this term in a sentence, you could say, October 1st is my Mockiversary. The term Lowell Sphere is a LEGO sphere designed with LEGO studs showing on all sides. It is made by LEGO artist Bryce Lowell. It has 6 identical curved panels built onto a cubic frame, and the original sphere uses a 4x4x4 stud core with an outside diameter of 6.8 studs. But many other variations in sizes are possible as well with this design. This is very much a go-to design for many builders and is very commonly used by AFOLs in their mocks. If you were to use this term in a sentence, you could say, I need to make a really strong and sturdy ball. I'll build a Lowell Sphere. Another term is Travis brick. This refers to the 1x1 brick with studs on all 4 sides. The part was nicknamed after space builder Travis Kuntz, who uses it a lot in his builds. If you were to use this term in a sentence, you might say, I'm going to start building something cool. I'll need to buy some Travis bricks. Another term is Minifigure Scale. Minifigure Scale is a term that refers to creations or sets that are built with minifigures in mind. The ships, cars, or buildings, or anything else is scaled so that minifigures would be able to interact with it, and nothing is out of proportion. That being said, minifigures themselves are technically not that well proportioned, so sometimes you can have phones or spiders that are as big as their head, and in reality they wouldn't be that large, but most LEGO sets are scaled towards a minifigure scale. If you were to use this term in a sentence, you could say, I recently built a car, but it's only to minifigure scale. Microscale refers to builds that are not scaled to the typical size of a minifigure. Traditionally the builds are a lot smaller in size, but can be an effective way of building larger models at affordable sizes. The exact size of Microscale varies. Certain LEGO sets have appeared in Microscale, and their sizes and scales do vary. Many LEGO sets even use nanofigures at a smaller scale. And while this could be classified as nanoscale, in my experience I've never really seen that term being used, and it's just kind of grouped in with the phrase microscale. So to reiterate, microscale simply refers to any build of any scale that is smaller than the typical minifigure scale. If you were to use this term in a sentence, you could say, I'd love to build a Star Destroyer, but I'll have to build it in microscale, otherwise I'll blow my budget. Convention cracks is the next term. This refers to the gaps that can appear in modules or areas on larger LEGO creations. Sometimes 2 larger modules that are designed to fit together have no issues whatsoever, but won't perfectly hug each other. And you have this annoying gap between the 2 of them. This gap is a convention crack. Often builds that come together at conventions and actually connect onto each other in 2 different modules. Both of these modules just simply won't line up properly. Now this can be the result of the tables bending or not quite lining up properly, or it's just the way the modules connect through no fault of the way that it's been built or designed. They just won't meet up properly. It can be annoying for those who like to collaborate on creations together, and any creation that has beautiful landscapes or really sturdy mountains now can have these very obvious lines in the diorama, and the illusion can be broken. There are some ways around this, and it is avoidable, but it is also slightly annoying and sometimes out of your control. If you were to use this term in a sentence, you might say, oh man, I have some convention cracks on my build. That doesn't look nice. And that's it for now. In part 2, we'll cover LEGO terminology that is more focused on building and designing LEGO creations. If there's a term you didn't see here that you want some clarity on, or you see one that I might have missed, let me know in the comments below and I'll add it in a future episode. But of course, since there are multiple parts to this sub-series, here's a list of the terms that I'll be planning on featuring soon or previously have featured. If you see the term on this list, I'll be mentioning it soon, don't you worry. Otherwise, that's it for this episode of Behind the Build. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.